And thank you for um, joining us for this commuting workshop. So I guess I'll click over. So my name's Tobin. My pronouns are she, her. I put up a few little things about myself. I have been in Pittsburgh now for 18 years as of this summer, and all of those years have been spent getting around the city without a vehicle because I never learned to do that when I was 16. Um, so in the past several years, I've definitely utilized biking a lot more, and it's become one of my favorite forms of transportation to get around the city. Um, but I really do love hanging out by the river and taking walks along the trails. So um, that's definitely a close second. But like Kat, I'm also a daily commuter for the most part. I try to um, uh, stay on my bike all year round, but sometimes in the wintertime, like take some, I switch over to taking the bus just for like safety's sake. Cause I do live outside the city a little bit, like in Aspinwall. So to get into the city, my commute's a little longer and I have to utilize a bridge that doesn't always get, taken care of in the wintertime. So it can be a little dicey. I did recently start working for Trek in the service department. I'm really excited about that to learn bike mechanics, but also to help with the representation in that on that side of the bike community because um, I know I've experienced a little bit of intimidation going into bike shops because when you go in, you do tend to run into a lot of guys. And as women and non-binary folks, we don't always, we weren't, we don't always just get that kind of education. Our dads might not have, showed us how to use tools or, anything like that. So it can be a little intimidating going into those spaces, but I'm hoping that more and more women and queer and non-binary folks get involved and are, included in those spaces and industries. And I think last thing I'd like to say about myself before we get started, because it kind of ties into why I feel the way I do about bike commuting. And it's an activity that makes me feel very strong and confident and very capable when I'm doing it. It's like it's also kind of like a bit of an ego boost. Like I feel really cool when I do it, and it's like so. It's an enjoyable activity, even when I have those moments where it's because like I was talking to Sarah before we hopped on here, like, and you'll see at the end, in terms of safety, is it you may encounter folks on the road who don't like to share. So um, there can be some encounters that might not feel the best, but I really do think that biking as a whole and bike commuting as a whole is actually it's very, very worth it. Um, so my goal for this workshop and presentation is pretty simple. I hope that you walk away with more knowledge than you showed up with, because I think knowledge is power, and it's uh, like having the knowledge and then subsequently like the confidence to even approach bike commuting is super important, and that's like essentially the first step. It's like you can definitely go into this, just kind of like throw yourself into the deep end and learn as you go, but I think it's important to just equip yourself with that kind of information. I do, as we said, it's like if there at any point you would like to ask a question or raise a concern or anything like that, feel free. I like to keep these kinds of presentations a little bit more casual and conversational, because I think this topic also lends itself well to learning from each other, and and our connectedness. Not only, I mean, yes, from learning from each other, but also like learn, knowing that you're not the only one out there. Like you might not always see people biking on the road, but the biking community in Pittsburgh is actually pretty large. Like if you've ever encountered a underwear ride, um, that Scott Kowalski does, like you'll see like there's hundreds of us out there. Um, but yeah, so that kind of the okay. So the whole idea of this workshop. So the scenario is, okay, you don't have a car. Something happened. It's in the shop, or say you just moved to the city and or moved to a new area and you don't have a vehicle. So um, some of the some of the first things that I tend to consider, or how I kind of like approach commuting around the city, um, is, where am I going? So like if I'm going somewhere really close, like in my own neighborhood down the block, going over to a friend's place, I'm probably not going to bike because, I might be bringing a casserole, or I might be bringing drinks. So it's just easier to walk than bike or take a bus like down the block. Um, so you kind of want to like assess your needs. um, if you're, yeah, like going to a job interview, um, you might want to think about uh, keeping your appearance clean. Biking is can get kind of dirty and sweaty, so and also in terms of like something else you might need to do, run errands, get groceries. um, you where is your closest grocery store? I know personally I don't um, do a lot of grocery shopping on my bike because I live at the top of a hill. So, and my grocery store is within walking distance. So I tend to opt for that versus biking, because although I might have the equipment to do that, it's easier on my body to just walk and carry my bags home versus like trying to balance them on my bike or anything like that. So, um, but yeah, so and that kind of leads into, I guess I've been saying that this whole time. It's things to keep in mind. Yeah, like groceries. Do you have the gear for it? Do you have bike bags or a milk crate that you can strap to a bike rack? Um, and also, how much are you going to be getting is something to take into consideration. Like sometimes I will stop in at the grocery store if I just need a couple of things, but usually when I do grocery shopping, it's um, I'm usually going and getting things for like a week or 2 weeks, or so I need to get more than what I can reasonably carry on my bike. Um, I usually also, when it comes to like biking to work, I definitely don't have any. I haven't had any jobs in the past several years that have required a very clean appearance. My bosses haven't really minded. Um, uh, if I show up and need to change clothes, or if I show up and I'm a little sweaty. Um, but if I do need to, or if you do need to like take a bus, um, for example, it's important to know, you know, um, how long you'll be, in transit, and, how much it's going to cost, um, where your closest bus stop is, things like that. Um, and in terms of like getting started, um, I always, I think this is something just personally that I take into consideration, is just listening to your body and doing what feels right. Like, or even, just if you're, you know, not in the right headspace to, hop on your bike and get all geared up, like it's totally cool to just like go for a walk or hop on the bus. Cars definitely make things a lot more convenient too. Um, but uh, there's also a lot of things to enjoy about taking different modes of transportation. So like, bikes are great for exercise, but and they can also be good for your mental health. But if you are the type of person who might enjoy people watching or talking to or meeting new people on your way, um, where you're going, like at the bus stop or on the bus, like the bus is a good way of like chatting with people. And then, it's like if you're going to take a walk, it's a good way to just, slow down, relax, and take it easy. But um, for the most part, um, we'll just look at the scenario of like, if say you decide to bike, and I think that's what I think a lot of people are here for that particular reason. And whether you've have a little bit experience or no experience, but so hopefully hopefully I will cover a lot of information that is helpful. But if not, definitely stop me and ask questions. But so one of the first, aside from just like figuring out how you're, what you're going to be using to get around, um, versus, biking versus bus versus walking. Um, the next important thing is choosing a bike. Um, and luckily we have a lot of options in Pittsburgh. There are a lot, like I think in almost every region of Pittsburgh, there is at least one or two bike shops available. And they're also really good resources for equipping, like getting your bike, but also, equipping yourself for your ride. And also, which I'll touch on a little bit later, but like if you, get a flat, it's like you can usually pop into almost any bike shop and they can help you out relatively quickly. Um, so yeah, there's also you can also order bikes online. That is totally an option. I know I ordered a road bike a few years ago online. I was like had a little bit of a tighter budget, so I was able to find websites that were kind of warehouse style. So they had more inexpensive options. Um, and but like last summer, I ended up throwing down quite a bit of money for my bike, but it was definitely worth it because I've ridden that bike like so many times. Like I it's an investment. It's my vehicle. So you just kind of have to also think about, are you is this going to be a daily rider, or is this going to be something that you take out 2 or 3 times a week, or um, deciding how much you want to invest is really important, because you could also check out the pre-owned, like I know I've definitely checked out Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace for bikes. Um, and we also have like free ride. There's I know I have Red Lantern listed under free or almost free. Uh, they are a free bike store, but I think for their like older or like bigger bikes, there's like a fee. They do offer like bike giveaways, I think about once a month. I'm not sure what their um, COVID hours or schedule might be. But they're pretty active on their social media, so they're always posting about when their next giveaway, or if you want to volunteer for Red Lantern, um, they're always, looking for help that way. And oh, and I found out last night they're actually doing a GoFundMe right now to try to purchase a church in Turtle Creek to offer a bigger space for their operation. So if you have some extra money to throw their way, that's definitely a good cause. Because I think their mission is like really great in like trying to offer, or setting kids up with bikes, and especially in areas like, because I think their one container location is in Braddock, right next to Brew Gentleman, and so they are definitely a very good cause to help out. Um, and actually so we also have an option is the Healthy Ride bike shares that you might have come across those. They are adding more and more stations around the city. I think one of the more recent ones was in Hazelwood, and I forget where there were a couple of other new stations put up, but they're also a really great option for if you don't, if you can't really invest in a bike, or it doesn't seem like a good option as far as like you won't be using it that often, or really you just kind of want to go from a quick point A to point B. They're a great option because they're really affordable. They do have monthly membership options, but it's I think it's like $2 for every half hour. You can also use your Connect card if you have one of those for taking the bus. Like those also work. But they also use an app. There's an app that works with the Healthy Ride bikes. And actually, similar to Healthy Ride, a Spin is new in Pittsburgh. Sarah told me about that recently. They've been around for quite a while. They're out of San Francisco, but we just recently got them. They work with an app. I think it's $1 to activate to ride them. I'm not sure what our fares are per minute, but they do go off of per minute. And I think I think I saw somewhere it's like it can be anywhere between like 15 and 39 cents a minute. So, and that is always a nice option for just a quick, like, say you're parking your car somewhere, or not parking your car somewhere, you don't have a car. That's what this whole scenario is about. But say you just need to, like, you're out and you just need to go, to the next neighborhood, like really quickly. If there's any of the Spin scooters, they're a good option because you don't really have to lock. There are areas where you can leave them, but you don't have to lock them up. You just have to, kind of like set them aside, take a picture with the app to make sure that they know you put it somewhere reasonable that's not blocking an entrance or anything like that. But that's always an option too. And as far as the Craigslist Facebook Marketplace goes, this might go without saying, but definitely always be careful, buyer beware. I think it is helpful to do some research on what you're going to be getting, and also make sure to just meet in a public place. Like, just be careful when you meet strangers to exchange money and stuff.
Oh, it looks like Kat has a question, or maybe a suggestion for those looking for newer used bikes.
I hope it's not too loud on the road. I just also wanted to throw in, there's a group on Facebook, Bicycle Pittsburgh, Swap and Share, I think is what it's called. I can find the link when I'm not driving. But people put, like, local people will post what they're selling on there, and I find it's likely more reputable because it's often more people in the community just kind of selling to the community. So that's also a good resource.
Were you thinking of West PA Bike Swap?
That might be it.
Awesome.
I feel like there's a Pittsburgh specific one.
Okay.
I will check later and send it if it's okay.
Wonderful. Thanks, Kat.
Yeah, thank you. That's really great to know. Yeah, because sometimes on like Craigslist and like Facebook Marketplace, people might just be, they're just like trying to unload something versus like actually, yeah, like selling to the community and like, so that's really great. Thank you, Kat. Um, so, um, I personally am very much a planner, and I think that um, like the way I've gotten around town has definitely worked well with that. I use the apps and like the apps and things that I use a lot are Transit, Google Maps, and the weather apps. They are definitely the weather. The weather app is definitely your friend. It's because I'll talk about that in a little bit in a second. But like Pittsburgh weather can be kind of unpredictable. I tend to kind of sometimes, some days, like obsessively check the weather app because, like, in the morning it might say that it's going to be raining all day, but then, like, you know, come like noon, it's everything's kind of cleared up. So, um, that I definitely suggest keeping an eye on the weather apps. Um, but uh, the Next Bike is actually the app that works with the Healthy Ride bikes. And with the Healthy Ride, you can also create an account on their website and use your phone number and a PIN to access those. So, but Next Bike is also an option. And Spin has their own, I think I mentioned they have their own app that works with those. Um, and we also have Bike Pittsburgh maps are very handy. I really like, I think I have so many of those right now. But they're great for commutes, and also we utilize them a lot for alley cat races. So they are wonderful to have around. Um, so and it's like something else that is really important when it comes to planning is uh, knowing where you're going. Like, uh, are you familiar with your route? Are you just like kind of like walking around your neighborhood or going down the block, or are you going to be venturing out somewhere new? uh, Maps are always good. Maps are always excellent for if you're going somewhere new. I definitely, um, I think with the Bike Pittsburgh maps, they'll like indicate like elevation because that's when you're biking, knowing what kind of terrain you're going to encounter is, I think, is really good to know. Um, Personally, I'm not always a fan of hills, but I am getting more and more used to them. Um, but yeah, it's good to know, yeah, where you're going. Are you familiar with this route? Um, and the road conditions. Um, Pittsburgh is notorious for construction, so it's if you have a way of figuring out like where construction might be happening in your area, I definitely suggest keeping an eye on that. Um, I think I actually just encountered a situation yesterday morning on my way into work. There was construction on Negley, and they were rerouting traffic in a direction that I definitely did not want to go. So being familiar with the area, I was able to make a different turn and get where I needed to go pretty easily. Also, if you're like say you are walking or need to walk at any point, because if you're biking, there's no shame in getting off your bike and walking. Like there's so many times where I've, especially on hills, that I've, opted for pushing my bike. Like, because recently I was house sitting in an area that was like not super accessible by bike, at least safely anyways. And the buses were either a mile away or ran very infrequently. And walking was also a dangerous option because there were no sidewalks or a shoulder to walk along the road. So that's always like, in terms of definitely of like being familiar with your route. Also, it's like knowing, are you going to be able to like get out of the way of vehicles safely? But this next topic, which I think Kat is quite familiar with, dressing for your bike rides, uh, and especially with like being the types of folks who bike all year round, knowing how to understanding how to dress is really important because in the wintertime you don't want to be getting too cold, and in the summertime it's really hot outside. So um, making sure that you understand or have an idea of how to best dress. I don't think we often think about that. Um, at least I don't think when I started biking, I really thought too much about like what I was wearing. And so it's uh, definitely important to keep in mind. Um, Time management is also um, really important because, if you're, because like traffic doesn't care, when you have to be to work or, making a certain, a specific appointment. Um, and also, if you're going somewhere a little bit further away, understand or knowing how long it's going to take you to get to your destination is really, really important. And also, like kind of like said before, it's like just how are you feeling? What are it's like, what are you feeling capable of that day? Um, I definitely, am a huge proponent of like listening to your body, and you know if your back hurts or anything feels off, some maybe not taking your bike out is totally a valid option. um, so yeah, I'm just kind of like, I guess, reiterating reiterating that idea is like listen to your body and just do what feels good. um, but aside from the kind of like the more uh, thinking, the logical or the logistics of your bike ride, making sure you have the right equipment is really important. And like I said before, it's like checking out your local bike shops. They will almost always have everything and more that you could need. Um, so like a helmet, PA is one of those states where you don't have to wear a helmet if you're over the age of 18 or maybe over the age of 16. But, it's like if you're an adult, you don't have to wear a helmet, but it's really important to protect your head. Um, just in case you go like, get into an accident, you know, go over your handlebars, or even if you just kind of fall sideways, you might accidentally hit your head, and you only get one of those. So it's really important to protect it. It's also important to protect your bike with a bike lock. I think the next slide I'll be talking about that a little bit more. And it's good to always have like, extra a patch kit and extra tubes just in case you get a flat. However, you don't have to be an expert. You don't, that's something that I said, if you pop into your local bike shop, they can probably help you out relatively quickly. I know, at Trek, we've, had quite a few people who come in with flats, and we, tend to like just, fix those up real quick and get people on their way. Because like it's when you know what you're doing, it can be something that like is really easy to fix. But if you're not very familiar, then you know um, it's always good to ask for help. And I think I mentioned it's like it can feel kind of intimidating going into a bike shop and asking for help like that when you might not identify as a cis man. Um, but I would definitely encourage people to do that and try not to be too timid about asking for help, or just I think that's something as I've gotten older, I've you know gotten or had to learn, like in general, of like asking for help and being okay with just saying, hey, I don't know something, can you help me? And it's definitely something that I'm learning in my new role as well, because I don't have a ton of experience as a bike mechanic, and I'm totally using it as a way to like learn um, as much as I can. But um, yeah, I definitely encourage people to um, ask for help when they need it. Most people they'll be able to help you with little fuss. Um, yeah. Also, another thing, if you do need to throw your bike on a bus, it's good to have uh, a Connect card or bus fare. That is really important. And I think we're okay on time, Sarah, to like pop up or pull up this video, if that's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because this is, especially if you've never, I know I was very intimidated by the idea of putting my bike on a bus, on like even as of last year. So, but it's actually really simple. And let me open this up. Yeah.
Pretty Boy here, and I'm here with my bird verified friend Stu. He's going to show you how to use the new bike racks that we recently installed on the buses in Pittsburgh. Hi, I'm Stu, bus 15237 on Twitter. Ooh, bird verified. I'm here to show you about using the bike racks that have been installed on all the buses in Pittsburgh. I'll show you how to put a bike on the rack and also how to get a bike off the rack.
As the bus pulls up to the stop, signal to the driver that you intend to put the bike on. Walk over in front of the bus, grab a hold of the latch, squeeze it, pull the rack down. Put your front wheel on the curbside slot, put your rear wheel on the driver's side slot, and on the curbside, grab a hold of the big J hook, pull it out, put it over the top of your wheel. When it's snug, then you can simply walk on and get on the bus. The door opens, I step off the bus, I walk around to the front of the bus, I grab a hold of the J hook, lower it down, take the bike off, and set it down on the ground, grab a hold of the latch, squeeze the latch, pull the rack back up, make sure it latches to the bus. Now pick up the bike, get out of the way, wave to the driver, and off he goes.
The nice thing about the buses is that the bus gets you the long distance or up the big hill or home in a storm or something, so that you don't have to ride the bike the whole distance from A to B.
I really like that video. That's fun.
Music was great. That's timeless.
Yeah. And I will also add, it is important, let your bus driver know before you get off the bus that you're going to grab your bike. just in case they don't know or don't remember you're the person that hopped on with the bike, and they don't like start driving when you're in front of the bus. That's really important. Um, oh, what did I do? Oh, there we go. There we go. All right. Yes. Okay. So I have a whole slide dedicated to locks, but it's a quick topic. They are just really important, especially if you're investing in spending, shelling out money for your bike. You don't want to lose it. So there are a lot of options. Um, just no bike is not an option. That's the only thing. But I know, like, I've used U-locks. They are a very popular model of locks to use. They're very easy. Usually come with a key. Right now I'm using a chain lock because I like it's helped with like being able to lock my bike up to various different structures. Like I can lock my bike up to a fence with very little issue. I can also lock up multiple bikes, so say like a friend I'm riding with doesn't have their bike, like we can totally like um, keep everyone's bike safe. um, and make sure you're not locking your bike, not don't just lock your front wheel, because your front wheel is very easy to remove, and then your whole bike is gone aside from the front, then you're just left with your front wheel. um, but so it's always important to lock it through the frame and just double check, just make sure, just give it a tug, make sure everything is secure. I think one of the downsides about chain locks is that if depending on what you've bought, they might be able to be cut, but so far mine, I think I kind of bought mine on a budget, so it's like, but so far mine's held up really well. Um, I think a lot of the bike specific chain locks that you can buy, they're made with a metal that's like meant to withstand cutters and whatnot. And another option is also the cable and combination. They're the like usually the really twirly ones. Those are nice because they can they can fit on your bike. You can wrap those around. The chain locks are good for that too. Like I have mine just wrapped around my bike rack. Um, U-locks can be a little tricky. I think I kind of shied away from those because I would end up having to throw it in a bag, and it just kind of like was extra weight that I didn't necessarily want to carry around in a bag in particular. Um, but yeah, no lock is not an option. Always lock up your bike. Even if you have it on like a car, it's always good to try to figure out a way to just like lock or try to lock the bike to a bike rack as best as possible, because it may just even like deter like or anybody from even attempting to, it's a little bit more work than they might want to put in. And so we've come to our last topic, and which is definitely safety. The I think sometimes safety can be, you can kind of like be a bit intimidating, but with commuting at night, like there's a lot of ways to keep yourself safe. So say you're commuting at night, visibility and being aware of your surroundings is really important. So as far as visibility, wear bright colors if you can, or light colors, or anything that might reflect um, light or headlights, or anything like that. You can buy like reflector straps that can like go around your legs or your ankles. that's always good for like having it on your body. I know I've also seen clothes recently that are made with a very reflective material. So it's like as soon as headlights hit it, it just changes a completely different bright color. And those are really, really cool. Um, but also lights. Front and rear lights. You can even, it's even important. I run lights during the day too, at least rear lights. And you should find lights that are at least 20 to 500 lumens. Most, I think, most standard car headlights are about 200 lumens. They just kind of seem brighter because I think they hit a wider area. Um, but it also depends on what you're doing. You can definitely buy lights that are upwards of like 2000 lumens, depending on like where you might be biking around. But I know Bike Pittsburgh does their light giveaways. Sarah, how often does that happen, would you say?
Yeah, so we typically do bike light giveaways on a quarterly basis.
Mhm.
We typically try to host those in more underserved neighborhoods. So our bike light giveaways are really focused on providing lights for individuals who can't otherwise afford them. We do highly recommend getting lights from local bike shops. If you do have some money to spare, you can get some really cheap lights. But yeah, if not, we definitely hold bike light giveaways. Say we'll likely have one coming up in the fall. It's hard for me to say; it's not my program, but they have historically done them during daylight savings time and those kind of changing of seasons, when it does get a little bit hard to see people on the road when dusk comes a bit earlier. So yeah, we should be having one this fall. So keep an eye out on our newsletter or social media. We'll definitely announce it there.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, and yeah, when the seasons start changing, it starts getting dark earlier. Um, Depending on if you work somewhere, you might like go in and it's daytime, and then you come out and it's dark. And if you don't have a light, that can be kind of like, it's um, a bit of a safety concern. Um, and being aware of your surroundings is also something you should definitely be aware of during the day, but keeping an eye on the road for debris, any like animals that might be running across the road, car doors, like that's always a really important occurrence to keep an eye out for. And also pedestrians, you don't want to run into somebody on your bike. I know we talked about biking on sidewalks in business areas. It's yeah, not something that's really allowed, but I mean, be careful and like announce your presence and just take it slow. If you do have to hop on a sidewalk in those areas where pedestrians might be, they definitely always get the right of way in those situations. But I think it's like it's be just keep an eye out. It's also important to pay attention to like road conditions. It can be a lot to be watching the road, and like paying attention to everything around you. But it's like the more you do it, the easier it'll get, because much like construction, Pittsburgh roads are not always the smoothest. And so potholes, they can be very damaging to your bike, but they can also, depending on the size, like you can like, get into some tricky spots with like accidents because of those. But also like the weather, it's like when it's raining or snowing, like visibility is diminished for everyone on the road. And so it's always good to yeah, know what conditions you're going into, but also like with, if if you are biking in the rain, definitely have your lights on. And in those cases, and when it's definitely when it's overcast, I will run with a front light blinking, at least like during the day, even though people might be able to see me coming, but just in case. Um, uh, Traffic, something I didn't mention as far as like with equipment is a side mirror. I find those are very helpful because even though I might have to like glance down and take my eyes off the road for a moment, it's definitely a lot easier and safer than having to like turn my whole body to like see behind me. Because I always thought I had really great peripheral vision, but once I started biking, I realized that that wasn't the case. So I'd have to like really turn my body, and it just it can throw off your balance and everything like that. So side mirrors are great. You can also get ones that are like attached to your helmet. So there are a lot of different options for that. And last but not least, aggressive drivers. This is a topic that I could talk about at length or gripe about at length. But it's when it comes to sharing the road, like I wish I could tell you that everyone is just, so sweet and courteous and, but that's not always the case. So it, when it comes to sharing the road with drivers like that can be a scary it can be a scary experience, and probably one of the hardest things to get accustomed to when you're going into bike commuting. But I think it's like, despite that, I think it's still really worth it to me. Like, honestly, I have had a number of run-ins with, grumpy, grumpy people behind the wheel. And, but despite that, I still get on my bike every day. Um, it's, yeah, like I'm still out there. Like, I definitely don't let those people, influence, how I feel about biking. Um, so, with that said, when it comes to, like encountering drivers, um, if somebody is honking at you, yelling at you, anything like that, uh, do definitely do not engage. Like um, do as I say, not as I do. I'm guilty of, yelling back or, but I would stress, don't engage. It's not really worth it to um, uh, get into an altercation, have something escalate that, because you never know, what somebody might, do. Because it, might start out as yelling and then it could get physical really fast. So just, keep your safety in mind and, yeah, definitely don't engage. Um, it's important to be mindful of your rights. I know PennDOT has some information on their website about the rules of the road, um, for bikers or for cyclists and for drivers. Um, it's like, yeah, so PennDOT, or according to the Pennsylvania vehicle code, I think that's what it's called. Um, bike Bicycles, or pedal cycles as they're referred to, are considered a vehicle, so you are allowed to be on the road. I've definitely had a lot of people say I should be further off the road or not not on the road at all, and it's just it's not that's not true. I don't think a lot of, or I don't want to say a lot of drivers don't know the rules, but there was actually the passing law or regulation was something that has been relatively new to drivers, and I don't think a lot of people know, given how people pass me sometimes. But people are supposed to, in vehicles, pass you with at least 4 feet or outside of 4 feet. Um, and if they need to cross a double lane or double line, they can do that as long as they can do it safely. It's totally um, uh, well within their right to do. Um, I think because like a lot of people, like even I know I don't drive. I never really learned how to drive, and I still know that like double lines mean don't cross these. But that has definitely changed with in being able to pass cyclists safely. Um, and so yeah, know your rights. Uh, there are, I think, Bike Pittsburgh passes out little like accident booklets, or that you can write down people's information and keep record of any incidents like that. Um, and I know that there are, I've come across message boards, and I don't know if our streets does it. I know we were using our streets for like keeping track of people in bike lanes. I think like last year or something like that. And but I've definitely come across message boards and websites where you can report to others, to other cyclists and other people in your community, certain areas that might be uh, a little bit more prone to incident, um, and people can give each other a heads up, or even just to report a one-off. Just be like, hey, keep an eye out. This person might live in the neighborhood, so you might encounter um, you know Grumpy Joe, or um, but also I definitely um, I feel like a broken record at this point. Like, listening to your body, stop. If you need to take a breath, if you need to like, just take a rest. I know even still, like when I, encounter drivers in situations that I don't want to find myself in, it can still like get my heart racing. And, so uh, definitely take a breath, drink some water. It's also good to possibly even give yourself distance between that person, because it can be kind of awkward or like not great if you end up like running into them like at a stop sign or or at a light. So but yeah, and like what I said, the advocate for yourself, and with those, yeah, with those message boards, with those websites, I definitely also um hit social media, and just every now and then I'll post little gentle reminders. Hey guys, like especially if it's like the weather's not great, like on especially windy days, I will definitely be like, hey, it's maybe just keep an eye out or be a little bit more mindful or careful around cyclists today, because like crosswinds and headwinds definitely change the experience. They can maybe make you a little bit more unstable. You might move a little bit slower, biking into headwinds. So yeah, I definitely always like will just put those calls out. I also just I feel like I'm also just very vocal about cyclists and rights, and like keeping an eye out for people. So but yeah, I think something else that is good to have, and I have one. I Having a bike camera or having some sort of camera on you can be good for just keeping track of incidents. And also I've definitely heard from people that like say there was like, I think in one situation there was a driver getting too close to somebody from behind, and they just like adjusted their, like they had a backward facing camera, and I don't even think they were recording. They just kind of like brought attention to their camera, and the person backed off because they, I guess got the hint that they were potentially being recorded. So that is always, that's a good option. I have one, the mounting mechanism is kind of broken, so I need to get a new one, but um, I definitely suggest having one of those too. Um, but yeah, despite all those risks, like, and I know it's like, it sounds scary, but I think it's so worth it. Like, I take a lot of pleasure and fun out of biking. I find that like it's really freeing. I've definitely, like, it's so good not having to rely on a bus or somebody else's schedule. I can just, like, hop on my bike and, go where I need to go. And like I said before, it's a nice confidence boost. You know, I've definitely had jobs where it's like, uh, it feels good to like roll into work and people are like, wow, you're so cool. That's so badass. And then also the people that think you're weird for biking all year round, but like, um, it's, um, still really nice. And it's like, it's good for your physical health and your mental health. Like, get those endorphins going. I know even with those like bad encounters or I'm having a bad day, it's like after I hop on my bike, it's like, you know, I feel so much better. It puts me in a much, much greater mood. So, um, but yeah, that is, I hope that helps with inspiring some folks to like get out there and get on their bikes and commute. But yeah, it's, if anyone has any questions. Um,
I see some thank yous in the chat. Please feel free, either unmute yourself or add your questions to the chat. I just linked Tobin's Instagram group there, where you can follow her cycling adventures and then potential group rides. I don't know if you have any coming up, Tobin, or any events that you want to share.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's like our RBF Roadies is like a bit of a slow going project right now, because I've been focusing a lot on my queer climbing group. But I'm hoping that uh, once I figure out my schedule more, and maybe starting in the fall when the weather breaks a little bit, and gets a little cooler, I might try to do some like group rides. I know I had one, I was trying to do one on a Sunday and just like biking up the trail to was it roundabouts pop up, because they do like beer and usually have food trucks and stuff like that. But yeah, I like to uh, go just about anywhere. So the group rides would definitely just be like, I like more so about like getting people together and like, like there's power in numbers. So yeah, like, because that's like like I mentioned with like the underwear rides, that's a big thing also. It's like body positivity, but also like, showing that the bike community presence in Pittsburgh is larger than people think. And so but yeah, but no events coming up like right this minute, so
Definitely. Yeah, I want to second everything you said, Tobin, regarding safety in numbers. And I mean, there's inherent risk to everything we do, but I would definitely agree that bicycling is totally worth it. And not just use common sense, but all these wonderful tips that Tobin shared with us today. There are lots of people who commute by bike regularly in Pittsburgh and elsewhere, and you have tons of community and support in our Women Non-Binary group. If you're interested in starting a bike train or, just commuting for the first time, definitely, introduce yourself in that group. I'm sure you can find other folks who live near you or would be happy to, just get you comfortable riding on the road with them, whether it's on the weekends or if you're commuting to similar locations. That's a great way to find some folks. So yeah, with that, we do have another Women Non-Binary program event coming up in September. I linked to our camp out event in the chat on the side. That's tentatively scheduled for September 18th to 19th. And then our rain dates, severe weather, would be 25th to 26th. So check that out if you're interested. And if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to either myself or Tobin or anyone in the Facebook group. Thank you all so much for joining us today. And thank you, Tobin, for doing such an incredible job. This was an awesome workshop. And I hope everyone feels more comfortable bike commuting and just getting out on their bikes this season, or all season, all year round.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was really great. Yeah, so and this is the first time doing like this particular workshop, so it'll just get better from here, doing it more.
Agreed.
If anybody wants to like, know more about this stuff. I love biking, so I could talk about it like for a while.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all again. Enjoy the rest of your weekends. Hope to see you all soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.